The amazing, the great Kurt Schlichter. Great to see you, Kurt. Thank you for joining us.
Well, Rebecca, it's right that you compliment me because I'm amazing. Have you? I mean, look, I'm a trial lawyer in Los Angeles. Do you want one who's modest? Keep in mind, he might know something that justifies it. No, thank you very much. I love coming in here. Every year, I always look forward. I know I'm going to do the AMAC hit. And I was walking through this morning, and I love it because you see all your friends, right?
Yeah.
And you see people, and I'm walking, and you guys are at the very end.
Yes.
So I'm coming all through the
We
whole
want to make
thing.
sure you get your steps in.
Yeah, I'm getting my steps in. I get stopped by like 20 people on the way, 20 friends I haven't seen in a while. I'm like, I gotta go. I got the AMAC hit.
Amen.
So I'm really glad to be here.
Well, as you mentioned, you're a senior town hall columnist.
Yep.
You are a retired Army colonel. You're a trial lawyer.
Yep.
And you're an author. And can we get right to it? I love reading your stuff. I love the stream of courteousness. You recently wrote an article about how red state Republicans you described as soft. And I wanted you to tell us about that description as well as how this softness could affect the 2024 election.
Well, when you're in a red state, a really red state, like a supermajority red state. Now, I'm in a supermajority blue state. And the Republicans there, the ones who are left, because, people are always like, you're sending your liberals from California. No. You're sending all my conservative friends. It's my conservatives who are leaving. It's not the liberals. Liberals are happy in California. We're hard. I mean, we are the hardcore. We're fighting all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I am surrounded by a bunch of damn communists all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And we got to be tough. Now, if you're in a red state where almost everybody is Republican, if you want to be in politics, well, you got to join the Republican Party. Now, some people will join the Democrat, very few. But if you want to really succeed, you got to be a Republican. So you're going to get a wider range of Republicans. You're going to get a lot of the kind of Susan Collins type. And I'm just fine with Susan Collins for Maine because she's as conservative as you'll ever be in Maine.
For Maine, right.
But you can't. But having a Susan Collins in, say, Kentucky,
Right.
oh no. So that's a real problem. So you get these soft ones, and a lot of them get bought by the education lobby, which has nothing to do with education. It's about preserving sinecures and indoctrination for a bunch of government flunkies. And a lot of them are scared, which it freaks me out. I don't understand why, if you're in a red state, you're afraid of these liberal action groups. But a lot of them are. But that's the kind of people they are, because if they're going to go in politics, they had to be Republican. So you get a wider range of alleged Republicans. So you get your Larry Hogan types, you get your Chris Sununu types, except in a red state instead of a blue state. I'll take Larry Hogan any day in Maryland because he's the best you're going to do. I mean, he's pretty terrible, but he's the best you're going to do. But if you talk a Kentucky or a Tennessee or a Missouri, no, thank you. Right. You got to be hard, and that's something we got to push them towards.
Absolutely. You reside in California. You mentioned that.
I do.
Your day job is a trial attorney in California. I believe you're a named partner, if I'm not mistaken.
I am.
Okay. You recently wrote a piece about how the state is in for some tough times. What's going on there?
Socialism is a miracle ideology because it can take for example, a country full of Cubans and make it poor. It could take a beautiful place like California, which, I got there in 72 as a little kid. Reagan was governor. My dad transferred around working for Procter & Gamble. We lived in Missouri, and it was like, we're going to California. It was like, wow. And I'm 6 years old. I mean, it's like, wow, we're going to California.
Was this from Cincinnati?
I started in Cincinnati.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Dad was P&G in Cincinnati.
Right.
And then we went to Houston, back to Cincinnati, and then to Missouri, and then they transferred us out to California.
Okay, sorry for the interruption.
That's okay. It's kind of interesting because I'm this California guy with these deep Midwestern roots.
Right.
And, of course, my parents both grew up in Pennsylvania. Interestingly, both grandparents were coaches in Pennsylvania. Both of them joined the Navy during World War II over age. Both of them went to the Pacific. Both of them ran rest and recreation areas for Marine fighter pilots.
Wow.
And they didn't meet until my parents got married.
That's
But anyway, yeah, so I'm like many Californians, so I have these Midwestern roots. But, man, I just think of California, and still in my mind, it's these swaying palm trees.
Yeah.
It's opportunity. I remember when I came back from the overseas in '91, I grew up near San Francisco, on the peninsula. About 20 minutes south, exactly between San Francisco and Silicon Valley.
Oh, okay.
And of course, everybody's got a station wagon. Everybody's making, $25,000 a year. Nobody's rich. And of course, when my parents sell the house, it's like, holy cow.
Right.
So it changed very much, but which is very normal.
Sure.
And I went to school in San Diego, but I got out of the Army. I'm like, I got to go to L.A. because L.A. is where you go to do what you want to do. And I got to build a career as a lawyer. I got to be a stand-up comic. I got to become an author. I got to still have my military career. I mean, and it never occurred to me that I couldn't. The idea that I could not do exactly what I wanted to do, as long as I worked hard enough and earned it, it never occurred to me. And that's the beauty of California. And that's what they've taken away.
Yeah.
They've told people, you're not good enough. Your dreams can't come. Somebody's going to stop you.
Right.
There's people in your way.
Right.
You got to tear them down. Of course, it's always tearing down the middle class, the kind of rich folks. Look, I live in a very nice area of L.A. Do you think I have hobos dropping by in my neighborhood, or do you think the cops run them off?
Yeah.
They create the kind of rich liberal types, create these pathologies, and then wall themselves off from them.
That's a great way to put it.
Yes.
I mean, if you had a best friend that was running in a race, you wouldn't say to your best friend, "There's no way you're going to make it. You're probably going to fall." This that, and setting people up for failure is really what they're doing.
It's weirdly undercutting a thing. It's weirdly, how you have frenemies.
Yes,
that's what the Democrat
what
Party is to normal people.
That's exactly
California
right.
should be a place where you get there. The proverbial get off the bus at Hollywood and Vine, and where you're like, wow, I can do what I. God, I know it's a cliche, but I can make my dreams come true. But that's exactly what California should be about, and it can't be like that if these losers are going to keep power, and that's what they do. And it's heartbreaking. I hire young lawyers who will walk in with $150,000 in student debt.
Yeah.
And, I came out with student debt. I was able to get through it. But, boy, I didn't have a $150K anchor.
Right. Well, the struggle is good. It's good to have struggle. It's what makes us who we are. Now, you mentioned 27 years military.
Yes.
And just incredible. And thank you so much for your service.
Oh, please. I was a colonel. I literally did nothing. Everybody's like, oh, thank you for your service. And you're like, you don't understand.
No.
Okay, it's the young guys who did all the work. And my gosh, I look back, I just break into a big smile when I think back of the great people I got to lead, the great young Americans. Can I tell you a quick story?
Oh, we'd love to hear it.
I was in Kosovo. And I got promoted to lieutenant colonel there. I was the general's fix-it guy, right? Back home, I was the guy, this unit's having problems, go fix it, Schlichter. I was the fix-it guy for the general. General Wade calls me, and Schlichter, I need you to get down to the post office. There's a problem, fix it. And, okay, roger, sir. Now, we had a military post office at Camp Bondsteel in Kosovo. And, they were qualified postal workers, and they could do something. But they're, a sergeant or whatever. And a little thing, and you would get your mail there. So I'm like, okay, there's one problem there. All right, I'll go down there. I go down, and I walk into the post office. It's not very big. It's completely packed. There's boxes everywhere. I'm like, well, this is weird. So I investigate. Now, we would send out these hardcore armored vehicles with infantry troops to go out and do presence patrols. And it worked very well. No one killed anybody while we were there. We never got shot at. We didn't have to shoot anybody. Everybody loved us because we were cool. But our guys are tough and backed up by gunships. Serious infantry guys. And they would drive out, and they would see a school. So the sergeant leading the patrol, who's probably about 22, 23, would stop, and they'd go into the school. And they'd see these kids didn't have stuff. They didn't have books, or their chairs were broken. Well, a lot of our guys could fix things, so they would fix up the school. Or, a broken window. This guy's a glazier in civilian life because we were reservists. They would fix it. Well, they decided to call back home, right, and say to their clubs and their schools, their communities, and say, hey, these guys need these things, these books, these globes, whatever. And Americans responded. And that was the problem. We got inundated with Americans responding to our soldiers saying, these kids, Albanians or who knows, what's an Albanian? What's a Serb?
Right.
Our troops were from Kansas and California. I didn't know these people, but they saw there were people in need, and they reached out to help. And that, more than all the fighting, more than the toughness, it's that's really differs. Because if you went into, the German sector or the French sector, that didn't happen.
And for that, we thank you. And that is precisely why you
thank
deserve
our young guys.
A world of thanks, along with the young guys. But what do you make of the balloon, the Chinese balloon? I'm curious what you think, because, I mean, really, and the way that the White House has sort of just ignored it, but yet they're shooting down hobby balloons, right? How bad do you think it is, and what kind of intelligence do you think that might be collected here?
Well, look, I don't know what kind of sensor package it had. It obviously had one. We saw the photos of it. And I hope they've recovered it from the water.
Yeah.
Look, if you're not going to protect your national sovereignty, why bother? But they don't consider national sovereignty important. Go down to the southern border. They, at the heart, a lot of these leftists do not believe that America has any legitimate interests because it's an illegitimate country. So they don't protect its border. They don't protect it from enemies. Except their own personal, domestic enemies.
Yeah.
Okay, I've been in places that had civil wars. We don't have a domestic enemy problem. All right? It's a lie and a scam. It's a total abdication of the most basic responsibility of the American government, which is to protect the American people, secure our borders. And they're just not doing it. And it's because they are ideologically unable to. They don't believe it's legitimate to do. They're moral illiterates.
Yeah. That's well put. You talked about recently Fredo-cons. I think
that was today's.
Fredo-cons, exactly right.
Fredo-cons.
And how the Republican field thus far for the 2024 election is populated by Fredo-cons. Tell us what a Fredo-con is.
Well, we've all seen The Godfather.
Absolutely.
Godfather Part 2. Fredo screws up, betrays Michael because he's dumb, and he's a little greedy. He wants something for himself. He's like, I'm not dumb. I'm smart. I'm smart, and I want respect. But he's not smart. Right. He's dumb. So you get the Larry Hogans, you get the Chris Sununu's, you get the Asa Hutchinson. I mean, even Mike Pence, who I like Mike Pence. I think he's a nice guy. I don't want a nice guy. He doesn't know what time it is. There's a time to be nice. There's a time to deck people. And he can't make that move. A lot of these people default to nice as an end. Nice is a means. So is nasty. Okay, I'm not saying everybody has to be harsh all the time. You have a toolbox. Sometimes you need a hammer. Sometimes you need a screwdriver. Okay? Sometimes you got a carrot. Sometimes you got a stick. But to put belligerence essentially completely off the table gives an advantage to your enemy. I am not about being known as nice. That's not a win. Okay? And it's like people who go, well, Kurt, DeSantis shouldn't use government to enforce his views on Disney. It's not conservative. Okay. Not here to meet your alleged conservative principles. I'm here to become more free. And if you decide that your principles make you how can you be a conservative and adopt any principle that makes you less free? I don't. Okay? And when somebody's using their power against me, and for example, Disney was using economic power, cultural power, and governmental power, right? They're exercising it freely to impose their bizarre and perverted ideology on us. We're supposed to take our power off the table? Oh, well, they could change our culture, but we don't get a say in it because, see, there's this principle that says we can't use our power back.
Right.
Okay, not playing that.
Right.
I'm not playing that. I am going to have a say in how my country is run.
Amen.
And I mean that in government, I mean that in culture. I'm going to have a say. There is no situation, there's no confluence of events that you can put together that make me surrender to the perverted, weird groomer lobby. It just doesn't. There is no conservative principle that requires I let some weirdo hit on my kid in kindergarten. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
And you need to know what time it is and be able to do that. I would love to go back to a day when the corporations did not intervene in cultural or political issues. But they decided they wanted to play horsey, and as one of my old brigade commanders said, well, this is horsey.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. We appreciate that you came down here to join us, and that's what this conference is all about, hopefully getting our voice out there, making it be heard. Thank you again so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome to be with you, yeah.
Have a great week today, or this week.
Having a great time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kurt.